AJ. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited about this one.
I know, me too. I'm so glad you reached out. I can't wait to talk multifamily. It's like my favorite subject.
Yeah, let's start with like how you got into real estate in the first place. What did that journey look like to get you interested in real estate?
It started when COVID happened. We lost our jobs and we're sitting at home like everyone else. And I was like, I hate this because I'm a social butterfly. I like to be out and about talking to people. And the fact that I was constrained to being at home, and then also we were like, how are we going to pay our bills? How are we going to live because we can't work? Stimulus checks were a maybe, and if so, it wasn't even enough to really cover anything. So we had to actually move back in with my father-in-law. But in the time being, we were watching YouTube videos every single day, and we're like, how to wholesale, how to get in real estate, how to do this, how to do that, and we took action and made it happen, which is crazy because we found a friend who knew a guy here in Houston who just so happened to be open to mentoring. And so because of that, we paid him $5,000, which was both of our stimulus checks. So we had $97 left in our bank account.
Wow.
We went all in. We're like, teach us what you know. We did a whole month training with him. And I was like, oh my God, like, what did we just do? We didn't have the right mindset, the right skill set. And so all of it was kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like, this is insane. Like, can we actually do this? I was like, we have no money left. We gave them all our money. We have to make this happen. So a month later, I was calling on their dead leads, and then I locked up 4 houses under one contract, like one seller with 4 houses.
Yeah.
And it was a 45K assignment that we got to split with our mentor. So that was the moment that it like lit a fire in me that I could accomplish something that I didn't think was possible. And I did something that made me insane amount of money compared to going to school to be a teacher. And so I came home with a 22.5K check, and I was like, look, mom and dad, I did that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I did it.
Life changing.
That was kind of the start, was COVID. So even though COVID was a hot mess, it was a blessing in disguise and pushing us to get out of our comfort zones and take action.
Yeah. What do you feel like was missing from your mindset in the beginning? Like what was missing to make you feel like you could go and do this from when you first got with that mentor?
I think believing in yourself, or believing in myself, and overcoming the 9 to 5 mindset of like needing someone to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Sometimes I still struggle with that, but it's like you have to realize you have to be innovative, you have to go and take action, find solutions to problems, and just constantly, what's the word I'm looking for? You're just constantly, every day is a new challenge that you're overcoming, but it's exciting. Like when you put your mindset to, that's not a problem, that's exciting that I get to do these things. I told my husband the other day, I'm like, I'm so like excited because we're gonna call buyers all day today, like people who are interested in this apartment building. And I was like, this is exciting because it's a great deal. We get to negotiate. And I'm like, how awesome is it that our job is to talk to people and negotiate deals on apartment buildings? You know, I was gonna be a elementary school teacher and make not that much money, and so it's just changing your perspective about your situation, and then also doing the inner work of like healing your childhood trauma, healing your subconscious and your self beliefs about yourself. And I think that's the number one thing that can make or break you in anything that you do, not just real estate, but anything that you try to achieve. If your mindset, if you're not working on yourself, then you're always going to self-sabotage or not be successful in what you're trying to do.
Yeah. What does what does Pace always say? I've heard Cody Barton say this too. Your
I know. Yeah, I know.
never outpace your personal development, which is so true. I mean, if you are staying right here in personal development, your income is not going to go past that. You're just not developed enough personally to have the skill set and the knowledge to get yourself your income to excel past that. So yeah, you have to start with your mindset always.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing.
Yeah. So you did your first deal. You made 22 grand. You're like, okay, this is proof of concept. I can do this. Did you stay down the path of wholesaling with your mentor, or what happened then?
It was only a month that we paid for. So after that, we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So we had all this money and we're like, okay, well, we had the idea of like you invest your money, you make money. And so like we paid for VA, for lists, all of that, but it went back to the mindset of like us not wanting to do the work because we didn't have the skill set. So we didn't have the confidence to actually close deals and make calls because we were like uncomfortable. We were scared. We were like, we don't know how to do a contract. Like, yes, they taught us all of these things, but it was so much information. Like, I learned by doing, not just by listening. And so when it came time to do it, it's like, okay, we're no longer being mentored by them. I don't feel right constantly asking them 100 little detailed questions about doing a contract. It was just very overwhelming. And so we ended up wasting almost all the money within 6 months, paying bills and then also just like trying to figure out how to run on our own. And it was lots of hard lessons. And then in December of that year, we joined Subto, and then kind of what gave us direction, to give us more tools in our tool belt, to be able to go and solve more problems and have a mentor to help us. That that's what I love about Subto, is that it's what is it? My brain is. It's a lifetime. Yes, it's a lifetime mentorship. So I love that because we have the community to lean on to get help. So when I was running into situations that I didn't understand, I could go and call people, and that's how we ended up closing our second deal. So it took us a long time until recently, probably since last year, that we finally figured out running a wholesale business. So it was more so we hated wholesaling and we hated talking to sellers. We didn't like doing any of it. And so it took us to learn delegating to be able to successfully run a team, because having my daughter forced us to do that, because we had no other choice but to, like, if we're going to continue doing what we're doing, we need to bring a team together. I can't wear all the hats anymore. I have to be mom, and Joseph is constantly the bottleneck. And so I was like, okay, we need to create more of you. So in doing so, that led us to actually enjoy wholesaling now, because Joseph and I, we don't like closing. There's different roles that other people fit in better, and so we found closers, we found TCs, we found dispo people. Like, we found everybody that enjoys doing that role, who is good at doing that role and wants to do it together. And so then that's when we really saw success in what we're doing on the wholesale side, is when we were like, okay, we don't have to wear all the hats. I don't have to have the skill set of doing TV. I don't have to have the skill set of being a closer. I don't have to know everything. It's who you know, not what you know, or who, not who. So when we started applying those principles, that's when, like, I was like, okay, this is fun. I don't mind it. It's exciting when you have people to lean on and to talk to and to do business with, rather than just trying to wear all the hats and do it by yourself, which is what we did for the first few years in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough trying to do it all by yourself and do things. I mean, for one, you can't do nearly as much business, right? Because not only are you trying to generate the lead, you're trying to close the lead, you're trying to follow up with the lead, you're trying to write the contract and do the TC and dispo. And it's like, when you're doing all that for one deal, you can't go and get more deals. So yeah, you may be splitting your profit, but you're going to end up making way more because you can do way more business when you are doing what you're good at and other people are doing what they're good at and taking on, the rest of the workload. Would you say, like, based on that experience, that people should either, so based on the experience of like you hiring cold callers and that not really working out because you're like you didn't have experience, so how are you supposed to teach a cold caller, right? Would you recommend that people either go join a team when they're new, or at the bare minimum like just generate some leads themselves and get some experience before they try to go build out their own thing?
Yeah, I always tell people that I'm like, you don't have to join my team, you can join anybody's team. Or I tell people, go find people that are interested in selling and bring me problems. I was like, go find problems for us to solve. And I tell people, let me be that resource, that tool in your tool belt that you can call and say, hey, I need help with this. I was like, I want to be that person that I didn't have in the beginning where I felt it was okay to just call somebody and ask for help. Because a lot of times you feel like you need to pay for someone's time, or sometimes they feel too big, like especially when you're brand new, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother them, or they're too busy and things like that. So I want to make a change, or at least from my stance, my goal and intention. I figured out my why and what I'm doing is I want to be that person that others can come to for help. Because when I started the multifamily journey, we were doing it, just figuring it out on our own. And then we eventually joined a mentorship that was like 25K, and we put it all on credit cards. And, that hurts. I was like, I wish I just had somebody that could say, hey, I see a light in you. I want to help bring you up. Let me just teach you. So anybody that actually has fire in them and is willing to learn, I love to teach. So I'm like, I want to be that person to make a change in someone's life that maybe doesn't have 25 grand sitting around to go invest in themselves, because I feel like I hate I hate money being the barrier to so many things. I hate money controlling so many people's lives. And like, you can't eat healthy because everything's so expensive. Everything comes down to money. If I can stop that from controlling some people's lives and being successful, then that's what I'm going to do. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I went on a tangent. I tend to do that.
No, that's powerful. I mean, there are so many people that do want to get started, and you can watch YouTube videos, right? But it's not the same as having someone that you can call up and say, hey, I have this lead. This is the problem. Like, I got on the phone with someone yesterday, and he was, brand new to the real estate community and had a lead, and it was a lead that was worth messing with. He just didn't know how to navigate that conversation. So it's nice to call someone up that has experience and they can help you, and you can learn as you go. And without having to pay 25 grand or whatever. But you bringing up multifamily, how and when did multifamily come into the mix once you got into real estate and started wholesaling first?
It's we joined another team, and it didn't pan out like we thought it would. So my husband and I pretty much had to go back to the drawing board and start over again. And we're like, okay, do we build out the wholesale team on our own again and try and figure this out? Because we were doing direct to seller, and I think that was also why we were struggling, because direct to seller is paying for VAs, paying for lists, paying for skip tracing, and then going after people hoping that they're ready to sell. So it's very discouraging sometimes. But um, I was like, I was doing dispo a lot, and I would always hear from buyers, I'm selling off my portfolio. I want to get into multifamily. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, I hate single family. I want to do multifamily. I knew that for quite some time, but it was another mindset shift that I had to go through, of feeling like that's not for me. That seems impossible. I'm not there yet. So, like, you know what? Why can't we just skip all of this? Why can't we just skip single family? I was like, I don't want to be that buyer 10 years from selling off my single family portfolio. So I reached out to some people in Subto, and I was like, hey, like, I saw you post about multifamily. Can we get together and talk about it? And so we ended up getting on Zoom every single day, and we were just taking imperfect action. And we had no idea what we were doing. We were doing a lot of wholesale deals that were a waste of time, but we documented our journey the entire time, just sharing all the mistakes we were making. We ended up getting a following because a lot of people weren't doing multifamily at the time. And so we were becoming known as the people doing multifamily. And so some people were bringing us opportunities. And so that's how we ended up getting our first two deals, were from other students bringing us an opportunity that they needed help with that we were able to make happen. But it's a hard journey because it's a long journey, unlike single family. So it's definitely a huge mindset shift when you're looking at millions of dollars worth of property versus a few $100,000. But I had to realize it's just zeros and just numbers.
Yeah. When it comes to multifamily, like what's the biggest difference when wholesaling specifically from single family to multifamily? Just some, the main differences if someone is going to go after single family for wholesale specific versus multifamily. What are you seeing?
I would say that the time frame is definitely different. And the other thing is I typically, because I'm a buyer, it's different. But like if I was just a wholesaler and I've never done a multifamily deal, I would not want to buy a property from a wholesaler that got a deal under contract. It's very different when you're getting deals under contract, because like this deal we closed on last September, 38 unit in Houston, it took us like 2 months going back and forth with lawyers, just getting on the same page on what certain details we wanted in the contract, because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So like if this wholesaler doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know the questions to ask, doesn't know what to put in the contract to keep both parties safe or to be on the same page, and then on top of that, due diligence every single day is important. Every single day of due diligence is super important. Like if it's 45 days, we want all 45 days. So if they're like, hey, I've only got 10 days left, I'm like, that's an issue. So
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a live tonight on how to set yourself apart when wholesaling multifamily, because it's very apparent when people are not in the space, when they're sending me deals and things like that. And so I actually want to teach about how to build your reputation and how to actually be a good wholesaler to multifamily buyers. Because if you can figure that out, you can really do some good deals and build a good network of buyers. But if you aren't aware of how to do these things, you can scare a lot of buyers off and not leave a good name for yourself. So
Yeah. Are there a lot of people in the multifamily space that just solely wholesale, or is that not really as common?
um I don't really know what comment to make on that. I know a lot of people are trying to buy and maybe don't have experience yet, but are trying to figure it out and take action, which is awesome. But it's a lot of doing due diligence on the people that you're working with to make sure that they can perform.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure, because it's biased on the people that I know. I could be not in the right community of people who may be doing that, but
Yeah.
I do know a lot of the things I see on Facebook are not quality.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's a lot of people that watch like 2 YouTube videos about multifamily and are like, I'm going to go call somebody, and they just lock up whatever.
Yeah, it's like, good job for taking action, but make sure you have some help.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went from 0 units to 108 units in 12 months. I want to know how you did that.
It was, like I said, putting ourselves out there. Like we were going live like every single week, multiple times a week, just talking about the things that we learned, the stuff that we were doing. So then people were coming to us, bringing us opportunities. And then the last deal that we closed that got me to the 108 was it was a broker relationship. So I had actually called like over 500 brokers on LoopNet. I was calling, trying to find people who had deals, and like out of all of those, maybe 5 of them were actually decent brokers. And now to this day, only one of them is still with me and hustling. So it's very hard, or at least on LoopNet, to find brokers that are actually taking action, because it's funny. I would talk to one broker and he's like, "Oh, there's not a lot of opportunity out there. I don't really have much going on." And then another guy's like, "Oh, I got this and this." So it would kind of tell me who's taking action and who's in the market and who's not. And it's really cool that I made this relationship with this one broker that I have. He's like a grandpa to me. He has been sending us deals for almost 2 years now and just constantly hustling, like dedicated to our team. And it's just so cool to see, because I turned it around and said, look, you're not just going to be a broker. Like any deals that we close with you, take that money and reinvest it into the property, so that way you actually have property that you own and you can start building your portfolio, because a lot of brokers don't do that, or they don't know that they can do that, or don't see the opportunity in doing that. And so a light bulb came on in his head when I shared that, and he got really excited. So I'm like, that's an opportunity that we can plant seeds to change his life too, especially for working so hard. But with the third one that we got, it was a broker that I had made a relationship with, and he ended up bringing us the deal because of that, and it ended up working out. And so we were able to take down that property as well. So the first two were creative financing, and then the third one was a loan assumption that we got sponsors for, and we actually did a syndication for that one and raised almost 2 million. So we have experience doing the creative side and then also doing the syndication side, and we're also going to be starting a fund soon. So I'm excited for that.
That is exciting. Were the first two seller finance deals?
Yes.
Okay. And did you guys, I'm assuming you guys have multiple partners on all of them?
Yeah, all of them have different partners. Everybody has a different role and things that they do for the property. And Joseph and I actually have like pivoted on like what we want to do after doing what we've done. We've realized we don't like operations, because doing the operations is a lot of work and it's a whole job in itself. And we've realized that our superpower is in acquisitions because of the team that we run, the deals that we constantly come by. We have underwriters on our team that we train now. So we're like, why don't we have our acquisition team where we can cherry pick deals that we want? Anything that doesn't make sense, well, now we can wholesale, and there's an opportunity to make money there, which is why it's good that we're buyers, because we know the questions to ask, the documents to have, the way to negotiate, how to underwrite a deal where it makes sense. So that's kind of the value that we're able to bring to the table when wholesaling these deals, because we're already in it and we already know, hey, these are the CapEx items you need to look for. These are the things you need during due diligence, stuff like that. And so we're also really good at raising capital. So we're like, let's start a debt fund, or I think Dina said it's a credit fund. There are two names for it. We're gonna start a fund and then use that money to buy properties, because we're part of another group of people who just have money that they want to make a return on. So this was like a perfect opportunity to find multiple ways to make money rather than just buying a property and operating it. It's like, we're doing the work anyway. How can we, make money in different ways? So that's kind of where we're headed now, is we want to insert ourselves into other people's deals with either raising capital or bringing deals to the table for other operators.
For someone that's brand new to the industry, what's a high level of what an operator does?
Oh my gosh. They pretty much, so there's the asset management team, and that's like you're in charge of all of the financials and also overseeing the property management company. So on our on one of our properties, the property management company was pretty much not doing what they were supposed to. So some people think, hey, hire a property management company, that's it. Well, it's like, no, you need to be on them. You need to be having weekly meetings. You need to be making sure that they're staying within the budget that you have for the business plan. So like our other property here in Houston, we have to like really be on them and make them think that we have no money. So that way they're very like, okay, make sure you're saving here and here. Cause they're like, if they think you have money in the bank and they're like, okay, let's just go spend it. Like, let's do this, let's do that. So you have to make sure that, you're keeping tabs on them, making sure that they're turning over the units correctly, that the vacancies are getting taken care of. You're just pretty much the manager of the managers. So you need to make sure that everything is going as planned. And then there's also the aspect of whoever's in charge of investor relationships need to make sure that they're staying on top of sending out what is it called, newsletters, and keeping the investors in the loop and things like that to keep that relationship well. So then there's boots on the ground, which Joseph and I are for here in Houston. And so anytime the property needs anything, we have to go out there. So like the video cameras need to be replaced, so we need to go out there and make sure that gets done correctly. And I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot that goes into it, that if you're doing multiple properties, it can be a lot of work, or at least while it's being stabilized. After it's stabilized, it should only be a few hours a week that you're doing it. But in the beginning of taking on a project, it can be a lot of work, because you really have to stay on top of them, because of the property that the property management company wasn't doing what they were supposed to. We had to self-manage for a few, I think like a month or two, while we were finding a replacement, and they ended up wasting a lot of our money and our time, and it's just something that we had to recover from. So as long as you have people, operators that are like, okay, this is how you pivot, this is how you do this, when things start going south, how do you handle those situations and bring your business plan back into play, so that way your investors are safe, and that way the property is going as planned. So there's a lot that goes into it that you just have to make sure you're staying on top of. So if you're not aware of how to get expenses down, how to increase income, and make your NOI better, so that way when you do exit, you can actually exit comfortably and pay back your investors. You, even though you have the business plan written out, if you don't know how to execute it, then it means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that almost sounds like the most important role of the whole thing. Would you say so?
I would
Yeah.
say it is, yeah, because it's, I don't know the word. I have mom brain all the time. It's like the back. What is it? your spine.
Fine, yeah.
The important part, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, holding it all together. So are most of the properties that you're buying, they all have value add, right? Are you like going in and remodeling a lot of the units? Like what does that look like to add value just in general to a lot of them?
Yeah, it's always important to make sure, like, I guess depending on what your strategy is, but ours is value add, that there is opportunity to come and add value. So for like our Houston one, they weren't charging for pets. That's an easy way to add value. They weren't charging for parking, so you can add for that. You can do bill backs where you're charging them back for their water and electricity that you're using. It depends on how it's set up at the property. I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot of, like, you can do upsells with like smart technology, things like that. So, and yes, we are turning them over as well. This one is actually really awesome because where it's located, people are just showing up wanting to rent there, and we haven't even like made it that nice. We were doing light turnovers at the moment. People are wanting market rent for it to move in. And so I'm like, oh my God, imagine, this is a great selling point, because when you are acquiring property, yes, you want to add value to it, but you have to remember to also leave a little meat on the bone for the next buyer, because you have to think, what is the next buyer going to want? Like, where's the opportunity for them to come and make money on it as well for when you sell it? So the fact that we're not doing the full renovation, like up to like 5 stars, it gives the opportunity for them to come and possibly make more money on that as well, because we do plan to exit in 5 years.
So when I first thought about multifamily, I always thought people bought an apartment building and just kept it forever. Like that's just what I thought for whatever reason. And now learning more, I know that that's not what people do. What's the reason for only people keeping it for really a short period of time? 5 years is pretty short in the grand scheme of things.
I think it depends on what they're buying. If it's a class A, I would want to buy and hold that like as long as possible. If it's a class C, like the few that we've got, it's because if you look at it from the bigger picture, you're basically doing a large fix and flip. That's what you're doing compared to single family. You're doing a large fix and flip. So you want to come in, add the value, capture the equity, and leave, because the property is older. So things are going to constantly break and get run down and things like that. So you are going to have higher maintenance, higher expenses, versus like a class A property is brand new. So your expenses are going to be a lot lower, but that's also why when you're investing, if you're an LP and you're investing in a class A, your returns are typically lower, like 4%, 5% sometimes, versus with the class C, it can be a lot higher, 7, 8, 9% return because there's higher risk. With the class A, it's safer. So when you are investing in safer assets, your return is lower. When you're investing in more risky assets, your return is going to be higher. So it depends on who you're talking to and what their business plan and what their goal is with what they're doing on whether or not they're going to keep it or sell it.
Got it. So in general, just the nicer properties, a lot of people keep those. Older ones, you're going to add value and flip them essentially. Do you think a lot of people like flip them and then they put that money, that the profit that they made, into like a class A to hold forever? Or is it kind of, do a lot of investors, at least that you know of, just continue to essentially flip the multifamily properties?
I would say investors typically, or from what I've learned, is that you choose like, okay, I'm going to do class B, or I'm going to do class A, or I'm going to do class C, and you kind of stick with that because the type of investors that you're going to attract are going to go fit for that. And what's the word? I don't know the word I'm looking for. Oh, your investor avatar. So like different types of investors are going to want different types of things. So if you start branding yourself as this type of investor, then you're going to attract those people. So it may be harder for you to get someone who is used to like 9% returns to invest in a class A with only 4% returns. So,
Got it.
but I mean, we've done class C and now we want to do more of class B. So I would say, yeah, you can change it. I think it's dependent on the person and what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably depends a lot where you're at, like in your investing journey, I'm sure too. What are some common mistakes that you see pretty often of newer people getting into the multifamily space? You know, whether that's comes to acquisition side or actually operating the asset.
I would say maybe not having confidence and not understanding how the process of a deal works. But I understand because they're newer, but maybe just finding other people to learn from, to help educate. And I don't know. I'm thinking I'll have to come back to it because I'm like distracted because my daughter's over here from the store and it's like messing with my brain.
You're good. Would you say, I know there's like always the debate in the multifamily and single family space of like, I want to get into multifamily, but as a newbie, do you start there or do you start in single family? And single family is kind of like kindergarten, right? And then multifamily is more like fifth grade. So do you start in kindergarten, or, you know, like Grant Cardone preaches, oh, just go ahead and skip to fifth grade. It's the same, just on a bigger scale. Do you agree with that, or what's your point of view on that?
I think it depends on where you're at in life. Like if you have a W-2, your bills are paid and you're not stressed about money, then I would do multifamily. But if like you're in real estate and you need your bills to be paid right now, then I would do single family because that's going to be way faster of a paycheck than doing multifamily. So I think it depends on where you're at in life and what you need from the situation to figure out which avenue you should take. But I do think like if multifamily is the end goal, to take action on that and learn, even if you are still doing the single family, and start building relationships, start building your brand, start learning the lingo, and just immersing yourself around people doing what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you said that you guys really started by like documenting your journey, because that's always a topic of discussion no matter what room you're in. And entrepreneurship is like being on social media, and people have a hard time with it, myself included. You know, people, it's for one, it's just hard to stay consistent. And for two, I think people feel like you have to post certain things, or maybe you're not good enough to post about it yet, or you don't know enough to post about it. But the word like just documenting your journey really goes a long way because you're just being real with people. You're just like showing them you're just learning. You're starting from square one, and you became known as the person that does multifamily, even when you were just showing that you were just learning from the start, right? So, do you have any tips for people that are they want to start documenting, but maybe they're nervous or they don't know how to start?
Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. It was so uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. Like I wasn't used to doing stuff like this. Like this would have been uncomfortable for me 2 years ago when I started. And I was like, you know what? Like we would get on and we didn't even know what to talk about. So we would just be like, oh, this is what we're doing, and didn't know what to say. Like every single time we did it, it got easier and easier. And then people started joining and asking questions. And then it was fun because I was like, oh my gosh, people actually want to hear and learn what I have to say. Like we used to max out Zooms like with 100 people like every single time.
Wow.
And then eventually Bina came, and it's hard to compete with her. She's too good. So, and a lot of people, they get shiny object syndrome and move on to the next thing. And so, it was just really cool to see that people wanted to learn from us, and like the stuff that we were sharing was important. And so, I don't think I would have got that feedback if I never actually started documenting it. And honestly, just do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else but yourself. I thought about it and I was like, how awesome is it that like one day when I'm not here anymore, my daughter can go back to my YouTube channel and she's gonna see like everything that I did and the stuff that I was going through and just how I took action and overcame challenges. I'm like, that's really cool in itself. And to be able to just look back for myself too to see like how far you've come. So I think it's a great idea. And I was telling my husband the other day, a lot of people come up to me and they know who I am. And I'm like, how I'm confused. And then I'm like, you know what? I think it's because like I'm putting my face, like my video out there. Cause like we're friends on Facebook and I'm like, I didn't recognize them. And I'm like, oh, it's because they're not posting. Like they tell me their name and I know their name. I'm like, oh, I know who you are. But like when you're not putting your face out there and they only see you on Messenger or just see your name and your profile picture, it's hard to make that connection with someone. So when you're putting your face out there, people feel like they know you already. They feel like they recognize you because they're seeing you every day. They're hearing how you talk, your personality, the things that you're doing. They feel like they're part of your life and that they already know you. So then when they meet you in person, it's not like this awkward cold conversation. They're like, hey, like I see you all the time. Like you're my friend. And so it's just cool to see. I didn't make the realization until recently, but that like me doing that was making a difference. Because sometimes it feels like it can be dragging to constantly figure out what to post. And sometimes like I overthink like, I don't like the way I look in this, or I don't like the way I sound in this. And so I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Like, I'm not going to care what other people think. What matters is what I'm doing. And so I try my best to at least make one post a day. I was like, if I make one post a day, like, then I'm good. So if it's like a picture, a reel, like a post to help somebody, or some type of way where I'm making a post so that way my face and name are being seen, then I did something good for the day. And the reason why it's so important is because if you want people to invest in you, they need to know that like if you never saw I was doing multifamily and then I said, hey, I'm taking down an apartment building, you want to invest 100K, you're gonna be like, do you even know how to do multifamily? Like, are you brand new? Like you would have so many questions because you're like, you just did this out of nowhere. How and why? Why would I invest in you? But if you've seen me every single day posting, hey, we're taking down this property, this person invested this, or I'm doing this and this, I'm helping these people, you're gonna be like, oh, I would love to invest with you. I see you're helping people all the time. So that's the real important, and it is for when you're raising money and bringing investors into your deals that you do find, people need to know or be able to reference your social media and say, wow, like that person is really taking action and and I like their values, and I like the way that they're doing things and their personality, things like that.
Yeah, so powerful. I know someone that he found his niche in Section 8 housing, and he started a podcast about it, and he literally knew nothing about it at all. He started bringing in all these guests to talk about it and really just ask them questions so he could learn. But he became known as the Section 8 housing guy from this podcast when he really didn't know anything about it. But just because he took the time to, he could have had those same conversations, right? He could have called those people up and asked the same questions, but instead he said, let me go, live on YouTube and, snip this up and put it all over Instagram. And people just started knowing him as this guy. So now when you have a Section 8 housing question, you know who to go to, even though he started out knowing zero about it, but started the podcast anyway.
Yep, that's exactly what I do. The best part about doing these StreamYards is then I go put it in a video.ai. It chops it up. Now you got reels with content.
Yep.
and then YouTube is great because it's a search engine, so people can always find your content later on, unlike Instagram where it gets lost. Once it's posted, it's lost. But with YouTube, people can always find it. So I'm working on it. I've got a lot I need to improve on, but it's better to take imperfect action than no action at all. So I applaud you for doing it too, because it can be hard to be consistent sometimes. Finding a new person to come on, a new topic to talk about, or life gets busy, or sometimes it's just like, I need a break. So
yeah. And I'm not consistent all the time, but I think one thing that I've held myself to is even if I fall off for like a month or two, I just like can't mentally do it. I don't let that stop me, or like I pick it back up, right? So it's like even if you need a break, like I haven't posted on Instagram for a while, I'm gonna start posting again, but it's okay if you just need to take some time. Just like don't stop, just keep going, even after you take a break. So it pays off at some point.
Definitely. Like my brother and sister, they graduated high school, and so many family members and friends are like, I see you all the time. I see what you're doing. Like, it's funny because majority of the people don't like or comment on any of my stuff, but when I see people, they always make a comment about they're watching what I'm doing and seeing what I'm doing. And I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. I was like, but you can't like it. Get some love for the algorithm.
Seriously. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I do think it's funny, but it makes me feel good when I do receive that feedback that, okay, even though it feels like people aren't seeing it, they're seeing it. They're watching from afar, and I'm making an impact somehow. So a lot of people reach out to me from high school. Hey, I want to get into wholesaling. I need help. And I'm like, that's so cool that they see me and they've been watching me, and they'll say, I've been watching your journey from the beginning. It's so cool to see how far you've come. They're like, how do I get started? So I've helped a couple of people from high school that came to me recently get their first deal. So I thought that was really cool.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think what a common thing is like on why you should do social media is people will come to you first and they will probably love your content because yes, you can go watch people like Pace Morby and Britt Daniels, but at least to me and what I think other people may think is like they feel so high up that you're not going to DM them and ask them questions, or you may feel like that they're so many levels above you that you don't feel relatable to them, right? Versus when they go watch your things and see you learning multifamily, they feel a lot closer and relatable to you and your content. So they're more likely to reach out to you and chat with you about things and ask for you for help and bring you deals because they just feel more relatable to you.
Definitely. There is a lot of power in social media.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you're going live in a little bit to tell us what sets people apart in the wholesaling multifamily space. Can you give us one little tidbit on here?
Yeah. I would say like the one thing that I would love as a buyer for a wholesaler is to have everything organized, have all your stuff in a row, and have like nothing annoys me more than when they don't have organization when sharing details. Especially, this is how we are in the single family team too. We're super transparent. We have everything you need. There's no reason you should be asking me questions about like data stuff. So we do the same thing with multifamily, have updated financials within the last 3 months. A lot of people like to bring us financials from a year ago, and I was like, no, because the way we like to operate is if we're going to submit an LOI, we want to keep our word on that LOI. So when wholesalers are like, send me a proof of funds and an LOI, that immediately tells me they don't know what they're doing, because an LOI is a letter of intent. How am I supposed to create a letter of intent on a property that I haven't seen the financials on? It's a waste of my time.
Yeah.
So if you can updated financials, rent roll, OM, if there's an OM, which is an offering memorandum, which is just a brochure basically of all the details, get the asking price, find out what if there's an assumable loan. If so, what are the details on that loan? Like, is it like how long is left on the loan? What is the percentage of the loan? Like the interest rate. The other thing is, okay, if there is an assumable loan, are they open to doing something creative, doing some type of seller financing with the equity?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, when is call for offers, and then how fast are they looking to close, things like that. I'm sure there's something else I'm missing, but these are just like questions that are always like, okay, someone brings me up, okay, here are the questions, go get these answered before like I will even look at it. So it's, if you have all of that together and someone came to me, I'd be like, okay, I like this person, they know what they're doing. I don't have to go and say, hey, I need this, this, and this, this, and this, and this. So it's an easy way to just take the resistance away, to smoothen the process and make things go faster, because money likes speed. So also the other thing is, if you are wholesaling multifamily, understand that the buyer needs to be able to talk with broker or seller. It's super important. A lot of wholesalers will try to get in the middle and then cause problems, and there's been times where a deal made sense and the wholesaler was just taking too long to respond. It became a huge barrier. So we made a rule now that if we cannot have access to the seller and broker, then we're not even going to entertain the deal. So
Yeah.
I think something else that people, at least for me and my values, is we're not going to go around people. I want everybody to win. I want to collaborate. It doesn't make sense. Like, I morally cannot do that. I have God as my number one. So I can't sleep at night if I were to do that to people, especially because your reputation is everything, especially in multifamily. So if I go and screw you over, then you're not going to want to deal with me, and you're not going to want to bring me opportunities. And chances are you're going to tell people, hey, look out for her. She took a deal from me and stuff like that. So when I'm working with people, I believe that my vibe attracts my tribe. And so a lot of times people are trustworthy, and like we trust, hey, we're going to make sure you get paid to do deals together. So I like to have that mindset going into things. Joseph always says, trust but verify. So when we are working with wholesalers, we like to set that tone up front that, hey, these are our expectations of how we like to work and the things we plan to do and the stuff we need access to. And if that doesn't work for you, then we cannot work together. So it's just understanding the process, because wholesalers that maybe don't understand are going to think red flag, you can't have access to the seller. But it's like, this is such a large purchase. There's so many things that go into buying a multifamily property that having a wholesaler that doesn't know what they're doing get in the middle and cause a barrier just isn't worth our time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people forget how much your reputation really does matter, because I think it can seem like the real estate industry is so large and nobody knows nobody. But in reality, like the true action takers and people that are doing the most business everyone knows each other, right? Everyone's friends, everyone talks to each other. I see posts all the time in private groups where they're like, do you know this person? And like people talk about other people all the time and figure out, is this person worth doing business with or not? So how you operate, even in the smallest ways, really does make you stand out and set yourself apart in the industry.
Definitely. And I love multifamily. I love real estate. It is not worth it to me. And so there was actually one person that asked for my help, and they wanted me to do every part of the deal, and they take like 80% of it. And I was just like, are you serious? I, I was like, I'm providing value to you, teaching you
Yeah.
things that took me 4 years to learn and lots of money and mistakes. I was like, I'm going to make sure you get paid, and I'm going to teach you along the way so that way you don't have to continue to come to me. Like, I'm going to provide value to you so that way, because some people, they like to make it where you can't not work with them. You're dependent on them. I'm like, no, let's keep doing deals. I want you to keep bringing them back to me. And he was so on like, I need to make X amount of money. And that immediately turned me off. And I was like, okay, he's not about the relationship. He's not about helping the seller. He's not about building a good relationship and collaborating. He's about himself and his money. I was like, that is not someone I can work with. So
yeah, I've had that exact same situation where they want 80% and the person literally said to me that they wanted me to mentor them through the deal. I'm like, you want me to mentor you, but you're going to take all the profit while I do everything and also teach you everything. Like, it makes zero sense. Yeah, you have to. I mean, yeah, I don't know why people get so hung up on profit, especially when they're new to the business. Like, you should value the relationship no matter where you're at in the journey, but especially in the beginning. You should value every relationship you make, and especially if someone's willing to hold your hand and do all the work for you and show you what they're doing, you should not take that for granted and try to only think about the money. The experience and the knowledge you're going to gain is going to way outweigh what you're going to make on the deal.
I totally agree. I think that's another mindset shift that you have to make.
For sure. For sure. Okay, yeah. So just having all your ducks in a row and really knowing what you're talking about and being organized and knowing how to bring a deal. And I mean, really, I think that goes for single family too. I see deals posted all the time. They're like 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 35K entry. And it's like, what is the actual information of the deal? Like, that gives nobody anything.
It drives me insane.
They won't even tell you the location. I'm like, what?
But that's why it's so easy. It's so easy to win if you try. It's so easy to set yourself apart from the majority. So if you put some effort in, you will stand out and be able to build good relationships and level yourself up. It takes minimal effort.
For sure. For sure. Oh, cool. Thank you so much. This was so helpful, just talking about, the ins and outs of multifamily and wholesaling and building your social media brand. I know everyone got some tidbits on here, and I'll throw your YouTube in the description so everyone can go. Is it at 8 or 8:30 Central?
8:30.
8:30 Central. She's going live on YouTube to talk about how to set yourself apart. She just gave us a little tidbit, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot more in her live. So I'll put the description and the link in the description so you guys can go watch that tonight. Thank you so much for coming on, KJ.
Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet you. Are you going to? I know I saw someone post about a happy hour or something. Are you going to that?
Yeah, I'll be there, and I'm excited. It's my 5th wedding anniversary with Joseph on Saturday, so we're gonna be celebrating with you guys.
Exciting. I mean, that's a really cool way, especially since you guys like came into the industry together and you're building the business together. So it's really fun to like celebrate your anniversary while also, educating together and just enjoying the stuff you do.
Yeah, it is fun. I love being able to work with him, and I'm excited to go raise some money. So I love learning. That's like my passion, is just learning new things. And I'm sure we'll end up going to dinner too. So my parents live in the same area, so we're gonna drop Sailor off and be able to have the whole weekend baby free. So I am excited.
Get some free time. That's exciting. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm excited to see you. Yeah, I don't know what time I'm gonna head up there, but I'll shoot. I'm sure I'll go to the happy hour and see you there, and we'll connect. So thank you for coming on, and we'll hang this weekend.
Awesome. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Bye, guys.